One of the things that's always annoyed me a little bit about the Microsoft Dynamics portals is this profile image right here. So if I've logged in or I'm registering, then if I go to the profile area, then I'm going to see this mystery person right next to the user's name, the contact that's logged in. If I hover my mouse, it looks like it's a hyperlink to do something, but if I click on it, it doesn't actually go anywhere. So it's a little bit pointless. Now, in doing some research and looking for how to actually use that image, I came across something with ADX Studio where apparently it used to be tied to Gravatar. Now, if you're not sure what Gravatar is, if you go to meganvwalker.com and search for Gravatar, then you'll find this article that I did in 2017 that is talking about what is Gravatar, how do you create one. Essentially, it's a site where you can go ahead and upload an image, and then any site that uses Gravatar, such as WordPress, if you then post comments, then it will show up with that person's photograph. So it's kind of cool. It would be great if it did link to that, because then at least users would be able to have a way to use their photograph within the portal instead of just this fake person. So I was thinking about how could we allow the user to actually go ahead and upload an image of their own for their own profile photograph, have that be used in the portal itself, and then also have that display on the contacts record in Dynamics 365. So if we go here to this portal, this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. So being able to have the user log in, see their own photograph that they've uploaded, and then come in if they want to and go ahead and change their profile image and upload a new one. The other thing you'll notice is there is a yellow border around the photograph. This is another wonderful blogger, Ryan McLean, so you can check him out if you haven't already. But with Ryan, if I scroll down, we've got this membership level requested, and I've just used a list of colours, and because this is yellow, what I've done is I've used a bit of styling to actually show a yellow border around his photograph. So those are that's kind of what I wanted to try and achieve, and also if I go ahead and look in D365, there we can see the photograph as well of Ryan. So how can we achieve this? Well, there's quite a few things that we need to walk through, so let's go ahead and we'll get started. So if we look at the portal, the standard portal, we'll see the image. What we want to do is we want to hide that image. So I don't want that to be displayed, because what we're going to do is allow the user to log in, upload a photograph, and that's what will be displayed in the top navigation. So we don't want this mystery person to be displayed. Now, if I right click and inspect this, what this lets me do is see what the CSS, the styling is being used, and we've got that div class equals well. So that's the name of the styling for this section right here. So if I go ahead, what we can do is create a new CSS file. So you can use Notepad to do that. It's really straightforward. So you basically, when you save it, you want to do, so if I do a save as, just so you can see, if you save that, it'll default to a text file. We want to change that to all files and then type in .css so that when it's saved as a very specific file type. So just keep that in mind. So what we're doing is right here, we've got this well, and that's the styling that we just looked at and saw that that's what's being used. So the well style, or the div, we want to say the image that's used there, display is none. So we're basically saying hide that, do not show that. We can't get to the actual code of the page to remove it, so that is our only option, is to do it with style sheets. What I also want to do, if I just go back to here, yes, you can see that it's hidden, but I've also made the name of the user a little bit bigger and also bold rather than what we see here. So if I go back to the styling, we can see here I've removed all of the styling for all these other things to do with the background color, the radius, and so on. But what I'm doing is I'm saying the font weight is bold rather than just normal without the bolding, and then the font size is 1.2 EM. So we're just basically saying make it a little bit bigger and also make it bold. Okay. Now, if I go back to the styling and we look a little bit further, what I'm going to do is when I actually add the code to put this into the navigation at the top, I'm going to use a style of profile photo, and I want the photograph to have a border that is circular. So basically change it so that image, no matter what size or what shape of image that is uploaded, we want to put that as circular and also put a border around it. So here is the CSS that I'm using for that. So I'm basically changing that into a circle, put a bit of padding around it, and then setting what the width and the height of that is going to look like. So essentially that is going to be the same width, same height across. So it should be a nice circle. Then what I'm doing is, if we look back at this membership level requested, or basically a list of colours, we are going to set, and we'll look at how we're doing this with liquid in a little bit later on, but we're going to set and basically say, okay, these are the colours that are in that drop down list. So blue, red, green, purple, yellow, orange and pink. And when we use the liquid, we will call out and say, if the user's record has yellow set to the membership level requested, then we're going to put a border of 3 pixels and it's going to use this hex number. So it's going to use that, which is a yellow colour. If you're not sure about hex numbers, go ahead and Google it, and you basically will be able to find a colour that you want and then go ahead and get the hex 6 character number for that, so that you can set a specific colour. So this is going to be in the blog post, so if you go to meganvwalker.com, then you should be able to find the posts about how to do all of this, and you'll be able to just copy and paste all of that code in there if you want to use the same thing. Okay, so that's our styling. So let's move on to the next step. So within our customizations, we need to add a couple of new items. We need to add a field or two, and then we also need to add a couple of new forms. So first thing, what I need to be able to do is, when the user is uploading their image, we're basically going to take that photograph and we're going to use a flow to move it through a couple of steps, and then basically get a URL that is an accessible URL to the outside world. In other words, it's not just a URL for something that's stored locally or stored in SharePoint. It's something that other people can see and access. We're going to take that URL using the flow and put it into a field on the contacts record. So we have to have a field to be able to do that. So I've basically got a field that is called image URL that is going to be, excuse me, it has to be a single line of text, and when we save that, we're going to save it as a URL field. Okay, so we're going to set it up, image URL, single line of text, field type simple, format URL. So make sure that you have that field there. Now if I go to forms, and we'll just sort this by the form name, scroll down a bit, and I've got a profile web form notes. Now if I go back to this example where we've got Ryan, we can see there, we'll be able to see the history of the images that he's uploaded. So that's basically using a timeline on a form for this specific contact. So this form that I've created, it's only one thing that I'm going to display on that form, and that is a timeline. So I need to add the timeline onto it. If I just go ahead and open it and look at some of the settings, I'm basically saying only show the notes, and the settings I can sort, descending, ascending, number of results and so on. Then if I go to the web client properties, I'm going to select the tab to be visible when the form opens. The default is going to be notes. So that's all I'm doing, and I'm going to make sure that it is in a tab of its own. So it doesn't matter, there are going to be other things on your form because there are certain things that are required on every form. That's fine, leave them on there, but create a new tab and just put the timeline on there, and that's it. That's all you need on there. Now, if we go back to our solution, and I'll scroll down now, the other form that I need to do is one for portal comment. So if I go to the portal comment entity and go to forms, I've got portal comment image. Now, when somebody is uploading the image, what we're doing is we're having them create a portal comment. Purely using that rather than having them create a note, because what we can do is when we have them create the portal comment, we can set a subject and then use the subject that will always be the same as our trigger for our Microsoft flow. If we do that just using notes, you don't have a way to really trigger the flow and say if the subject of the note equals this, because it's going to be different every time, because it will have things appended to it, the contact's name, time, date, stamps, that sort of thing. So we've got to use a portal comment, because what we can do, which we'll look at in a moment, is we can say when a portal comment is created, set the subject to be X. Now, this one is interesting. It's actually, we're not going to display anything on the portal comment form itself, but we have to have certain things that are required. See the padlock, I cannot remove those from the form, and we need a form to be able to allow someone to actually upload the photograph to. So what we're going to do is I've kept the minimum amount of things on here, but on the subject and the image notes field, what I'm doing is I'm basically unticking that says visible by default. So that will not be displayed to the portal user at all. So that's what we're doing on there. It's basically going to be essentially an empty form that doesn't have anything on it at this point. So those are going to be the forms that you need to have created, first of all, before you can move on to the next step. Okay, so now we need to make sure that when the user goes to the page to upload their new profile image, they actually have access to be able to create a portal comment and create notes, and then also view that information. So to do that, we're going to make sure that we've got some entity permission records set up. So we'll go to the website that we're using, and if we go all the way over to the ellipsis, then we have access to get to the entity permissions. So if we go ahead and scroll down, first thing is we've got an entity permission record. If you don't already have this, you'll need to create it, but most likely you will have this, because I believe this is going to be a standard one. So we want to give global permissions to notes. The entity name is actually annotation, so that's why you'll see annotation, but you're going to select the notes, make sure that the website is correct, and then our privileges, we've got read, create, append, write, and append to. The only one that I haven't given them is delete. If you wanted to let them delete, you could, but not necessarily advisable. So make sure that we've got that entity permission set up for notes. If I go back to the entity permissions, we also need one for the portal comment. So I've called this portal image. The entity is going to be the portal comment. The website we're going to set, and then the scope is going to be set to parent. Now when you set the scope to parent, you then need to set, well, which parent entity permission record is the parent. We'll go into that in just a moment, and then when that finishes spinning, what that is going to give us is a drop down and say, okay, well, which relationship to that entity permission parent level are we setting? And we're basically saying it's the any portal comments that are linked to the actual contact that is logged in. Again, we look at the privileges. We've got read, create, append, write, and append to. And if I go to the actual parent entity permission record, we'll see that this is set as the entity name of contact, the correct website, and then the scope is self. So read, append, write, append to. So these are the entity permission records that you're going to need to make sure that you've got set up. It could be that you've already got some within your portal created, so go ahead and test things first before you create entity permission records, just to make sure that when the user logs in, they have access to be able to create a portal comment, and also create, essentially that would be when they create the portal comment, they're actually uploading, which creates a note, so they need access to be able to do that. And then if you want them to be able to see what they've created, they will need the visibility to be able to view and so on. So check those first in your portal, and if not, you'll need to go ahead and create those entity permission records. Okay, now we need to add a couple of new pages to the website, but we also need to add entity forms to display on those pages. But in the entity forms, we need to relate back to pages. So this can be a little bit of a sort of a feel like you're going back and forth in terms of doing the creation of these things. So if we go ahead and we look at the pages that we need first of all, so I'm going to go ahead and log out as Ryan, and we'll go ahead and I'll log in as somebody that has administrator access so that we can see how to do it. To me, I find it the easiest is to do it directly from within the portal rather than within Dynamics 365 itself. So I am on the profile page. If I click on children, I'll see that we've actually got two child records, two child pages that have been created. I've got change profile image and image updated. Now, if you look here in the navigation, we can see change profile image is listed here, but image updated is not. Now, the image updated page is going to be one that when someone has updated their image, we redirect them to say, thanks, it's been received, you'll see the changes take effect shortly, that kind of thing. So if I go to the change profile image page, we'll see here we've got the name and then we've got what the parent page is. Now, if we create our child from the profile page, it will automatically default that as the parent page. We've got the partial URL, and then the page template that we want is the profile child page. That means that it will then show the correct navigation on the left-hand side, and it will feel like it is part of the profile experience for the user. Now on here, we've got the entity form of profile image. So this is what I'm saying in terms of if we don't already have the entity form, we can't add it here, but we will need pages on one of the entity forms to say, use this page. So if you need to leave the entity form blank to start with, create the page, then you come back later on and actually put the entity form onto it. That's not a problem. Then on our language content, what do we want to actually display to the user? So you can put in your text, and then any options, and then go ahead and we just save out of that. The image updated, if I click on that, again, we're going to use the profile child page, and language content, we're going to put some text on there that basically says, thanks for updating the profile image. It's going to take a couple of minutes to see the profile image updated in the portal, blah, blah, blah. So a little bit of text there. In terms of then deciding or making sure that you have that changed profile image on here, if you hover your mouse over the profile navigation, you can then click to add whichever page it is. So if I wanted to have the image updated page on there, then I'm just basically putting in what I want the name to be on the navigation, selecting the page, and then clicking save, and then it will display within that navigation. So you're going to need to do that for the change profile image link. I just did that to show you as an example, but we don't want to have the image updated one there. That is essentially going to be our hidden page that will only be displayed when someone is redirected to it. So now we have our navigation, we have our two new pages that have been added. We'll need to then go ahead and look at creating those entity forms. We need to make sure that we've got two new entity forms created. So if we're looking at the website, we can go to the ellipsis, scroll down and go to entity forms. Now, the entity forms we need to add is portal comment and portal image. So, portal image, we'll go to this one first. Now, the portal image is going to be used on the change profile image web page. So this is the web page. If I go to change profile image. This is the web page that will display all of the previous images that somebody has uploaded. Okay, so that is the form in Dynamics 365 we created where we said just display the timeline. So if we go back to the entity form, we've got the entity name of contact, we've got the profile web form notes that we created, and then the tab is the profile image one. And that, remember, is just the timeline that we're displaying and nothing else. We're making this read-only, and the record source type is the current portal user. Now if we just click through, we don't have anything on the form options that's relevant. On success settings, we are not actually going to be doing anything with this because no one's ever going to be redirected from that page, so we can ignore this. Additional settings, what we want to make sure is we've got further down here, we've got an action that we are going to add that is the create related record. The related record we're going to create is the portal comment, and the relationship is portal comments linked to the contact. The target type is an entity form, and the entity form is the portal comment entity form that we're about to add. So again, you can see you've got a bit of back and forth in terms of which one you're creating first and then having to go back and link to them. And that's fine, you might have to do that and just to make sure everything is linked correctly. Now, when somebody has uploaded their created the new portal comment by clicking to say upload my new image, we want to have a success message that is displayed. Your new profile image has been uploaded. Please check back shortly for the change to be implemented. The button that they will click on will be update photo, and then any other information in terms of the style and so on. Okay, so we've got all of that. The entity form metadata, we need to add one, so you click on add new entity form metadata. If we go into the one that we've got here, and we're going to add a type of notes, and the only thing that we've got on here, well, sorry, two things. We've got a message that displays if they don't have any images that have been uploaded yet. So we're basically saying you don't have any, use the upload button to get started, and then create enabled is true. Okay. So if we go back to that entity form, so we want to make sure that we've got all of that set up. And now the other entity form is going to be the portal comment, and the portal comment, the entity name is going to be portal comment, and then the form is going to be that one we created for the portal comment that doesn't have anything on it. In other words, we're hiding everything, and we pick the tabs, and there was only that one. Now if we look through the different options, we don't have anything we need to worry about there. On success settings, we are going to redirect. So in other words, when somebody has uploaded that image and they've clicked upload photo, what's going to happen when that's been uploaded? And we want to redirect them to the image updated page, which is that hidden web page that we have added but we didn't put in the navigation. Okay. Additional settings. We have an action for submit. So what's going to happen when someone is going through and submitting? Confirmation required, yes. So we've got a pop-up that will display that says your image has been uploaded and so on. So we put that information in. We're also going to associate, when we upload this or we insert it, associate it to the current portal user. And we also are going to make sure that they attach a file that will be stored as a note rather than a portal comment. And attach file required. So because that's the only thing that we'll have on that form, that's the only thing we want them to do is actually add a file. So let's make sure that the file is added by making it required. Then we've got the entity form metadata, and what we want to do is if I go ahead and open this, we want to basically force an attribute, the attribute being the subject field on the portal comment, we want to force that to be filled out with something behind the scenes for us, because that's going to be our trigger that says when someone uploads an image and the subject of that portal comment is set to image updated, that will trigger our flow that then moves that comment through the process and actually allows it to be displayed in the portal. So we're basically scrolling down to the set value on save on that entity form metadata record. So we're ticking the box to say set the value on save, the type is a value, and the value is going to be image updated. That can be whatever you want it to be, but that is going to be my trigger for the flow when a new portal comment is created. So now we've got our entity form metadata all set up. This is where you're then able to go back through all of the other areas. So go back to your pages, make sure that you've set the correct entity form and make sure everything is linked together correctly. Okay, so in our entity forms, we've basically said when somebody uploads their new photograph and they submit it, we want to redirect that user to that hidden web page that we created, the image updated page. So if I go ahead and click on update photo, and let's go ahead and we'll choose our new TGG photo. So I've got to go ahead and upload that. Now we get that message that we said we wanted to show, so we wanted to basically force that confirmation, so that's great, that's fine, we click OK. Now remember, we've done a redirect to that image updated page, okay? So we'll just give it a minute, it's a little bit slow on the portal, there we go. Now, that's not really very good, is it? Because what it's done is that update image form has opened in an iframe, and that's fine. That's a good experience for the user. But what's not a good experience is then when we do the redirect is within the iframe. So what we want is we want to make sure that that redirect is actually popping out of the iframe, closing the iframe and forcing the user to have their browser redirected rather than the iframe redirected. So that's fine, we can achieve that. So if I go to web templates and I look for the header web template, what I can do is if I can go ahead and I'll just paste in a script that I've got. Very, very simple, and this will be on the blog post at meganvwalker.com if you want to just go ahead and copy and paste that rather than trying to look and type all this out. So we're basically, this is the start of saying, okay, this is a little bit of script, and then we close that script. All we're doing is we're basically saying if a redirect happens to any page within the portal, then force it to go to the actual, force the main page or the main browser to do the redirect rather than the iframe itself doing the redirect. So it's a very simple script, but if I go ahead and go back and do update photo, and let's go ahead and pick this one now. So upload it, there's that confirmation, click OK. Now, what we're going to see is you might have seen that it was in the iframe for a brief second, but then it immediately forced that redirect. So now the user has gone to the correct page within the browser rather than seeing that page within the iframe. So we need to make sure that we've got that in that web template. Now, the other thing that we want to do is we talked about the profile, where we've got this membership level requested and mine is purple. Okay, now we also have displayed the image so that when the user's logged in, they see it immediately up in the top right hand corner. So we need to add that to the header of the page as well, or the web template, sorry. So if I go back to the header web template, this is where we've put in that JavaScript just now. If I scroll down, go down through all of this code, and what we're looking for, if I can find it, what we're looking for is basically a section where we're saying we want to add in to that menu, we want to add in the image, and we want to basically say, depending on the color that they've got on their here we go, depending on the color that they've got on their file, on that option set, we're going to determine which color to display as the border around their image. So this is the code that we've added in. So again, pretty simple, not too much to it, but let's walk through what it's doing. Now this is using Liquid. So again, if you go to meganvwalker.com or look at any of the other videos in this YouTube channel and just look for Liquid, you'll see there's some videos that explain what Liquid is and how to use it. But what we can do is we can basically put some conditions in and say if the new underscore image URL is essentially if it contains data, then what we're doing is we're setting the image and we're using that field of the image URL, and we're basically taking that as the source for the image. What we're also doing is we're using the image class from the style sheet. So we can see their image class is going to be profile photo. There's that class in the style sheet. So we're basically saying use this, so set the border radius, set the padding, set the width, set the height. Then what we're doing is the field that shows the color is called, in my environment, new underscore color selection. And we're basically using the label, and the label is the blue, the red, the green, and so on. And then downcase dash box, what that's doing is it's saying, if I go back to the this section where all the colors, so by using the color selection label, that will match one of these styles. It will either be blue, red, green, purple, yellow, orange, or pink. And we'll take the first part, which is where it's saying downcase dash box. So what we'll end up with is when that is being looked at by the portal, it's basically going to say, oh, well, the color is red, so we're going to use dot red hyphen box. Therefore, the border used is going to be this specific color. So that's what we're doing here. Otherwise, if that new image URL field doesn't contain any data, we're going to use that standard mystery person image instead. So there will always be a contact photo that gets used. The contact photo used is either going to be the generic one if they don't already have one, or it's going to be the one that they've updated themselves. So we're going to add that in, and that's what it's going to be doing. It's going to be determining which photo to display. Now if I go back here and I do click on there and inspect the element for that, what we can see there is the image class equals profile photo, which we already determined, and then the Liquid is saying, oh, okay, well, on their record is set to purple, so we'll do purple hyphen box, so that will be the image class that's used. That's the styling. Then the source is pulling from that image URL field on the record. So that's how we're able to achieve that and determine what image is displayed and what color border around the image is used. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at the Microsoft flow that's going to run when somebody uploads a new image to the portal. So we'll start off and we've got our trigger. So the trigger is basically when a record is created, and that record is going to be a notes entity. So this is where we are using the portal comment to allow someone to upload their image, but it's actually creating a note. So that's the trigger. Now, what we want to do then is actually put in a condition and check to make sure that the object type that this is linked to is actually linked to a portal comment. So we're creating the note, but we want to make sure the note is linked to the portal comment. If it's not, we don't do anything, we end the flow. If it is, then what we do is we go ahead and get the portal comment record by using the regarding link from the trigger above, and that's going to be the item identifier. Now we still need to check something else to make sure that the portal comment that was created is actually has a subject of image update. So remember when we did that entity form for creating that portal comment, and we had the entity form metadata, and we said populate the subject field, and we populated with image update. That's what we're checking. So if it doesn't have that, end the flow. but we're also saying that that there's a document attached to that note as well. So we're checking those two things. If those two things are not present on that, then go ahead and stop the flow. If they are, then we're going to go through and actually walk through some more steps to go ahead and update that image. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new note, and that note we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it a title of image updated. We're going to use a description with an asterisk, then web, then another asterisk. Now that is a something that is a part of the core functionality of a portal, that if the note has that in the description, it will display in the portal for the user. So we want to put that in the description so that once that image has been updated, then it will display there for them so they can see the image in a history of all of the images that they've updated. Document is going to be yes. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get the document from the trigger step, the very first step, and we're going to use the document field. The same with the file name, the same with the MIME type, and also the regarding. We're going to take the regarding from the get record field right here. So we're going to use that. Alright, so we're going to create that note. Once we've created the note, we are going to then create a file. We're going to use the file name from the create new record above, and for the file content we are going to use a code to get the document body, and I'll put that in the blog post related to this video. So meganvwalker.com, you'll be able to look at the blog and get all of the code that is needed for expressions in this flow. So once we've created the file, we're then going to use a get file content step and use the ID from the step above to basically get that file content. Then we are going to create a file in using Azure Blob storage. Now this is a really cost-effective method for storage, or an alternative to storing all of your documents in Dynamics 365. It's a lot cheaper, and what this allows us to do is to actually create an image that has a web accessible link, meaning other people can access and actually see that image from outside of our own network. So it's not a local file or anything like that. It's not locked in SharePoint behind some kind of security. So we're going to use the folder path, and I've got an images folder that I'm using. The blob name is going to be the name from the create file step. So up here, create file for OneDrive, that's the name we're going to give the blob. The blob content is going to be the file content from the get file content step. Okay. What we're then going to do is we're going to update the record and the regarding record from the create a new record step up here. So that's what we're going to use there. Then if we go ahead and look at the rest of the fields and scroll down, we're going to go to the entity image, and we're going to basically use an expression to get the file content, the body of the file content, and update this, and this is going to convert it base to 64 binary. So we're going to convert it and put that in there. Again, that expression code will be in the blog post related to this video. And then we're going to go down to the image URL field, and we're going to use the path to where our blob storage is, and then a / and then actually use the file name from the trigger above. So that's what we're going to be doing, and that will update the image URL field on the contact record. The last two steps are just a little bit of cleanup. So first of all, we will delete the portal comment that was the original portal comment created. And then we'll go ahead and delete the file that we created in OneDrive, because we don't need either of those records any longer once we've completed the flow. Okay, so that's the flow. That's how to set everything up. So next we'll go ahead and actually walk someone through and register them on the portal. Okay, so let's go ahead and register on the portal. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the sign in link. I'm going to go ahead and register a new user. So let's go with a test. We'll go ahead and register. So when you first register, then it's just got the email address and the username. We don't have a first or last name. So you'll notice that the profile, we don't have the name listed here yet because we don't know what it is. And also you'll see that we've got that generic mystery person image that we're using that we set in the liquid code in the header web template. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll put in some information. And what I am going to do is I'm going to select the color purple. See what I did there? So we've gone ahead and we've put in that information, and I'm going to go ahead and update the basic profile information. So once we've done that, again, now we see the name and we see the image still. If I click there, I've got that link to change the profile image. You can see now there's the name in that slightly larger bold font. We can also see that because there are no records in the timeline linked to this, it says you don't have any uploaded profile images yet. So that's great. That's what we wanted to see. So I'm going to go ahead and update the photo. We'll go ahead and we'll browse out and we'll get Whoopi's photograph and we'll go ahead and upload that. And again, here's that confirmation that we're forcing again. So we're saying your image is being uploaded. We're reminding them it's going to take a few minutes for the new profile image to be visible within the portal. And that is obviously because we need time for that flow to run. So we need them to be aware it's not going to be immediate. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And what we should see in a moment is the redirect that takes them out of the iframe and moves them into the main, back to the main parent tab that they're in. Again, we're using a little bit more information just to remind them again. It's going to take a couple of minutes to see the new profile image actually be updated in the portal. So we're at that hidden page, that image updated page, and we can see we've been redirected there. Now, if we go ahead and let's move around in the portal a little bit, I'm going to go ahead to submit a support ticket just to bide a little bit of time and hope that the flow should be running. And let's go ahead. Oh, awesome. It is already updated. I don't even need to do the case. So that is fantastic. So if I now go back to the change profile image page, there's the photograph that was uploaded. It's been updated in here. If I now go into Dynamics and search for Whoopi, we can see that her image is now being used on the contact record in Dynamics 365. If we then go back to our flow, we can see here it ran successfully. The first condition was met with true. We went down to the next condition and that was met with true. And then we can see the green ticks next to all of these steps and all of that information was updated. So we've got a slight time delay, but as you can see, it didn't take that long for the flow to run and for everything to be updated. It creates a nicer experience for the end user to where they can actually keep their own profile record on file, which will then sync back into Dynamics 365 and update onto the contact record. Hope you enjoyed this.